After millions of people have participated in the No Kings protests around the world, I think it's a really good time to ask two important questions. One, is it still safe to be a protester, especially here in the United States? And two, does it even really make a difference if we protest? So the reason why I ask about safety is because we just had two Minnesota lawmakers killed for being Democrats here in the United States. But we also have all of these politicians who seem to be in some form or fashion either threatening violence against protesters or even encouraging it, right? Where Donald Trump's talking about beating protesters and arresting protesters. You have a sheriff in Brevard talking about killing protesters. Ron DeSantis is talking about running them over. Now, granted, in these cases, they'll tell you like, oh, well, we're saying this because if the protesters themselves become violent, we're going to respond in kind or with even greater force. But it's also weird because DeSantis wasn't just saying like, oh, run over protesters who you think are a danger to you. He was saying if they impinge your way. So basically, he seems to be suggesting that, oh, if a protester's in the way, go ahead and run them over. And the result of that has been at least two incidences after the No Kings protests of people driving their cars into protesters. Thankfully, no one was killed, but it seems to be kind of a matter of time. In addition to those physical dangers, there's the danger of not just being arrested, even if you're not doing something illegal, but just by virtue of being associated maybe with someone who happens to be, or if you look at like back in the day in the civil rights movement, basically just for being a protester, but also the danger of things like facial recognition technology, potentially losing your job, being put on some sort of like government watch list. There's companies that specialize in helping identify protesters, even if they're wearing masks, basically to be able to sell it to the government. And there seems to be evidence that police are using things like doorbell cameras and using those networks to, again, to identify protesters. Now, again, everyone's going to tell you, oh, well, this is a matter of the law and legality. We're just looking for people who are doing things that are illegal. But it's important to note the number of protesters who do something illegal is very, 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 very small. And obviously, it doesn't ever help. Being a protester who engages in some sort of illegal or violent activity does not help the cause in the slightest, and they shouldn't be doing it. But why is it so dangerous and increasingly so? It is because protesting works. Donald Trump knows that it is. And so they're going to do everything that they can to try and prevent people from using their constitutional right to protest. Protesting has made massive difference throughout the United States, ranging from the civil rights movement, even to people who were in the original Trump administration government, who came out later on saying that it made such a big difference for them as they were trying to do things to protect people, maintain the law, be whistleblowers during the Trump administration, made a difference for them to see that people were protesting, to see that what they did mattered, that they weren't just kind of like trying to maintain morality and maintain the Constitution in a void where no one cares. So being a protester really does make a difference. And Trump knows that. This is why his brand does everything they can to make it seem like everyone actually supports Donald Trump. The people who don't are a small minority. He talks about his crowd sizes being larger than they actually are. They do everything they can to cut video footage of anything like missing seats at his rallies. If there's a poll that comes out that shows he's unpopular, he'll just call it fake news. Why? Because it matters. People like to be part of something that seems popular. People like to be they like to be part of something that seems like there's lots of people involved. You like to be part of a winning team, right? You know, if there's a football team that's winning the Super Bowl over and over again, you'll see that they'll gain more and more and more fans. People like to be part of a winning team. So even though MAGA is actually a minority of our country, the fact that they're so loud and the fact that they have such a loud bully pulpit in Donald Trump is something that makes them feel like a majority and draws even more people to them. So these millions of people protesting Donald Trump really does make a difference. It makes people go, oh, wow, maybe I'm not alone in my beliefs that something wrong is going on. And mark my words, you will see Republicans, you will see MAGA, you will see Fox News and the right media all try and pretend that the protest was tiny. They'll show as many instances as they can of maybe a protest being canceled or there being very few people there. They're going to do everything they can to only show large protests if they can somehow include some sort of violence in it. But what they do not want to do is they don't want to show millions of peaceful protesters. They don't want to do it because it's really motivating. It lets us know that we're not by ourselves, especially the people who actually can make a difference. So I think really we should give props to the people who are out there protesting. You are, and especially if you're doing it nonviolently and following the law, you are someone who's doing something very brave, right? Not only are you in physical danger, but you are also in danger potentially of losing your job, being outed by the government. And you're doing that because you believe that the country matters. You're doing that because you want to protect veterans. You're doing that because you want to protect the poor, because you want to stand up for people's rights to marry who they choose, because you think it's wrong to take away like medication and treatment for people with HIV and AIDS around the world. You're trying to save lives. And in so doing, you're kind of endangering your own. And so you really do deserve our appreciation for that. So with that, if you find these kinds of philosophical thoughts and investigations interesting, please do like and subscribe. If I missed something, if I've got something completely wrong, please go ahead and put it in the comments. If you have advice for protesters in protecting themselves and continuing to, again, follow the law, but also avoid danger, please go ahead and pop that in the comments as well. And with that, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day.